Hey, what's up, Paul? Quick demo video for you for your '89 Sabers OWK, and this is installed with the Goth Master Chassis. So thank you very much for your patience on this guy. I had a lot of difficulties. Tried to keep you, informed of what was going on, and you were super cool about it. So I just really appreciate your patience. There are a lot of moving parts on this guy, so I want to make sure that I try to explain everything to you so that when you get it, it's not confusing. Okay, this is a 2-button setup, but the buttons are right here. So your front switch here will be your activation and your back will be your auxiliary. How you get to your chassis is you want to unscrew the booster and the pommel together. We'll do that. This will slide off. It is a very tight fit on this chassis. All right, so just take your time. Everything on this Saber is a tight fit, so just take your time. When you get to this point, you got to wiggle it free. It will come apart just like that, but you just have to be careful with it. It's not one of these things you can just grab and pull right out of the Saber, or you'll probably damage the chassis. All right, so just take your time, get it out of there. We'll put this off to the side, and we'll go over your actual chassis. This is what you've got. So you got an OLED screen over here. I'm not trying not to touch it with my fingers and get my finger oils on it. But your OLED screen, you've got your kill switch right here for your removable battery. When you get this, the negative side of your battery goes over here. It's the leaf spring piece right here. Okay, so just remember that positive over here by your NeoPixel connector. What else do we got? You can see your 2 switches right here. If I get it out of the reflection, so your 2 tactile switches. If you need to get to your board, which you probably will, this top piece is on magnets. So you could pull that off. It does expose your 2 tactile switches and your board. Your board is adhesed down to the shelf, but you can get to your SD card. You can pull it out with a pair of tweezers, and you can use a 90-degree data cable to do everything you need to do here. And then when you're done, put this back on. You had given me a Bluetooth module to put in here, but the one you gave me was too big. It was a Bluetooth 909, or it was a BT 909. That was way too big to go in here, but I think it's a 603. It's a tiny guy, right? It's very tiny. I had one of those laying around. I was just able to fit that underneath the board. And I am able to connect to this guy and do some functions. So everything is working there. It was just barely enough to fit in this guy. The one thing about a 603, though, it does not work as well as the BT 909. Ideally, you'd want to have that module way away from the board. And there's nowhere else on this chassis for me to put it. I had to put it underneath the board. And because of that, it does mess with some functions every once in a while. It also works best when it's outside of the Saber. But you can play with it. You might have better luck than I did. I found that the Bluetooth functionality worked when this was outside the Saber best. But it still messes a little bit with, like, if you hit blaster on your phone or lock up, you might have some trouble. Just keep doing it a few times and it will eventually do it. It says in the manual to keep it away from the board, otherwise you will have those problems, those same problems that I'm having. Okay. What do we got here? We got your crystal chamber is in the middle. You can see that there. This gate right here opens. It is a very tight fit. But if you come over here and take your time with it, you got to look at it. It can be hard to do this stuff on camera sometimes. It's got magnets on it, but then it also kind of does like a snap fit when it closes all the way. All right. So when you open this up, you've got a magnet here and a magnet here, and that helps it close. But it exposes your crystal, obviously. So you got your crystal up here. You've got a rotating plasma gate down here that's grabbing the crystal. So how I wired this motor up. I've done it in the past where I made the motor go fast like most people do. And I had some complaints because it was too noisy. So what I did was I slowed the motor down a little bit and I wired it to the negative speaker pad. So that way this motor will always react with sound. It is a bit slower in action that I'll show you here in a second, but it doesn't let off any sound when it's moving. You can't hear it, right? So I thought that was the better alternative. That's something that I've been doing lately, and people seem to like it. So that's what I've done with your motor there. There's no need to have a blade style to run the motor. When I looked at your SD card, you looked like you had it almost looked like an LGT font package. I mean, there was a ton of fonts on there. I grabbed one font, which was an OWK font. I made the config for it, and then I put a copy of the config file on your SD card. I wanted you to have one font that you could build from, and you could easily see what I did there. Okay, but I left the rest of the fonts on your SD card. So let's throw a battery in this guy. There it is. We'll put that negative side over here. It's a tight fit, but it goes in. Of course, you're not going to hear anything until we come over here and we flip the kill switch. I'm going to go ahead and turn this light off. The OLED screen does not work very well as far as showing on my camera, but it says, well, it's got the battery meter on there right now. So this particular battery that I'm using is fully charged, almost. We can hit the switch from over here on the chassis. Now, if you look right here, right there, you can see it spinning. Spins a little slower, but it reacts to sound and it doesn't let any of that noise off. So you got your stocks lighting up like they should. Hold it down for blade lockup. Or we could hold it down and turn it off. Now when you go to put this in, that's another thing you want to do slowly. Let's grab the saber right here. So when you put this in, you want to line up these two tactile switches on the chassis with these two buttons. Okay, so do that. Put it in. You're going to get so far, it looks like it's all the way in, but it is not. So you want to kind of work it in and just be gentle with it. It does have to go in all the way. If you look from here, it's going to be hard to see on camera, but you can see that last tactile in there. And then if in person, oh yeah, you can see it there. You can see the bottom of this switch. You need to make sure that tactile is all the way under that switch. Just like that. So this is all the way in. Say if I were to fire it up right now. Now these LEDs are firing up like they should. Auxiliary. We'll turn it off. Now when we go to put this on, because this is such a tight fit around the chassis, it's going to turn this chassis just a hair. You can see I could turn it like that just enough, right? And if I turn it, you can see how that tactile is not under that switch anymore. So how we get around that, first we'll put this on, screw it all the way on, but as we're screwing it on, we kind of cock that chassis a little bit. When you get all the way tight, back it up just a hair. And we've lined those switches back up with our buttons now. So now everything's working exactly like it should. You got your stock V3s in there also. There's no chassis retention screw, and even if there was, I don't think I'd want to use it because you damaged this guy. And it's such elaborate, beautiful chassis, you don't want to use a retention screw. But that is how you're going to have to get around that slight switch misalignment when this is getting screwed in. We can throw a blade in this guy. It takes a 1-inch diameter neopixel blade, and it has really good blade depth. And then we'll also lock it down. Sounds really good. Do it again. We'll cycle through some colors so you can see all the pins are doing exactly what they should. If you want to find like a darker blue, kind of right there, we'll hit power. Oops. You need to hold down power and hit auxiliary to lock a color in.
I can see him. My mind's eye.
So now when we turn it back on, we've got that color blue. You can see your blaster bolt deflects a lot better on this color. And we'll hear that pre-off one more time.
See him in my mind's eye.
Go ahead and take the blade out and then go over taking this guy back out. It's going to be the same taking it out. You're going to want to take your time, be careful with it. Take this out. As we're screwing this out, I'll come show you the switches. You can see how that switch is misaligned again. It's actually, yeah, over on this side, right? Because the chassis really needs to be turned like that. So that's just a little something you're going to have to watch out for. We'll come over here. We'll flip the kill switch, and it will kill that LED screen and everything else. And then just carefully bring it out. Just like that. I usually can't pop this out with my finger. I have to grab a tool and come over from the positive side, and I can pop the battery out and take it out just like that. But that is basically your OWK. Let me know if you got any questions, and if not, this guy will go out in the mail to you tomorrow. All right, thanks.